So I'm super excited for today's video because we're going to go over how to pick your first 5 credit cards. Now, everyone's credit card journey is going to be a little bit different, and as someone who's a credit card enthusiast, it's fun to reflect on what I've learned along the way, and knowing what I know now, what would I do if I were starting my credit card journey from scratch? And with that in mind, here's my thought process on how to pick your first 5 credit cards. From my perspective, these cards can be divided into 2 categories. The first set of cards are what I would consider to be your main starter credit cards. These are the cards that you start with and will serve as your foundational, no annual fee cards that you keep open long term. I think it's really important to prioritize no annual fee credit cards in the very beginning because these cards will be the ones that age on your credit report, which will help you maintain your credit score as you get more and more cards in the future. The second set of cards are what I would consider to be your apprentice cards. Now, these cards are going to work alongside your starter credit cards and perform 2 primary functions. The first is to have a complete multi-credit card setup to maximize rewards as much as you can in this early phase of your credit card journey. The second is to start you down a path where you can ultimately decide if you want to be Team Cashback or Team Travel. Now, I admit that these cards may vary depending on what you value most. For example, what you spend the most amount of money in, or if you have certain travel patterns with a particular airline or hotel chain. But these recommendations are going to be based on what I'd recommend if I were to restart my own credit card journey from scratch. Your very first credit card should be a no annual fee card that you can get approved for. Bonus points for getting a card with some decent multipliers on your spending. Of course, depending on your situation, you may need to get a secured or student card, but assuming that you're able to get an unsecured card, that would be preferable. And I would choose the Discover It card as your very first credit card, and there are a couple of reasons why this is my recommendation. The first reason is that it's a no annual fee credit card with great multipliers and a very unique first year benefit. The Discover It card gets you 5% cash back on rotating categories each quarter and 1% cash back on everything else. But in the first year, they also offer an unlimited cashback match. This means that within the first year on this card, you get 10% cash back in rotating categories each quarter and 2% cash back on everything else, which is a great deal. Because of this cashback match program, I think using this card as your only card for the first year would be the best way to maximize this very unique benefit. Of course, provided that you practice good financial habits and know how to treat your credit card like a debit card. The second reason is that this card is a great gateway card for other issuers. For example, Chase Bank, who prefers to see existing credit history prior to you being approved for their cards. The Discover It card would be a great card to use to get the feel for using a credit card in the beginning, paying your bill in full and on time, while at the same time getting used to dealing with the rotating categories and getting very good rewards with your everyday spend because of that first year cashback match. And this is a great transition to our second card, which, in my opinion, should help complement that very first card we just talked about. And that card would be the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. Because we got the Discover It card first and use it for an entire year to maximize the cashback match, we hopefully now have a whole year's worth of positive credit history. And Chase really likes that. Everyone's situation may vary, but one common guideline with Chase that I see is that they like to see good credit history with another bank for at least 6 months to a year before they feel comfortable approving you for your first Chase card. Of course, if you bank with Chase already or got a student card with Chase to begin with, this may not apply to you, but I think it's a good guideline to keep in mind. And so I would have chosen the Chase Freedom Unlimited card because now this card can serve as my catch-all card for all of my everyday expenses, while I could use the Discover It card to maximize those 5% rotating quarterly categories. I know one question that may come up would be, why would you choose the Chase Freedom Unlimited over the Chase Freedom Flex? And for me, since I already have a rotating category card with the Discover It card, I would prefer to complete a 2-card setup with a catch-all card instead of getting another 5% rotating category card, even though having 2 5% cards may get you better cash back depending on your spending habits. And of course, you may feel different otherwise and may value the Chase Freedom Flex more, but that's what makes credit cards so much fun. There's so many ways to go about getting your first credit cards, and there's really no right way to do this. So now that we've established our starter cards and have built an effective 2-card setup, let's move into the next category, which are your apprentice cards. Again, these cards may vary widely depending on what you value in terms of cashback or your specific travel habits, but I'd advise you on sticking with no annual fee credit cards, or at the very least, mid-tier credit cards with a downgrade path to a no annual fee option. So to review, we started with the Discover It card, so we should hopefully have 1 to 2 years of positive credit history on that card. And we also have the Chase Freedom Unlimited card, so we're building a solid relationship with Chase Bank to set ourselves up for future applications with them. And using that same thought process, it's pretty important to start building a relationship with another very important credit card issuer. So the next card I would get would be the American Express Blue Cash Preferred card. And there are 2 reasons why I would get this card as the next card in my setup. The first is that I can start building a relationship with American Express, which, as we all know, has an amazing lineup of cards. The reason I'd want to do this early is because I want to get this hard pull out of the way, and since this is a personal credit card, hopefully all of my future applications with American Express, both personal and business, will all be soft pulls as long as I continue to have a good relationship with them. The second is that the grocery category is and always will be a top spend category, and although the Discover It card may cover this category for 1 quarter, I'd like to have a card that can have an elevated grocery multiplier in that particular category all year long. And in terms of cashback, you can get up to 6% cashback for groceries and up to $6,000 per year at US supermarkets, among other pretty helpful multipliers. Now I know what you're thinking, but Sin, didn't you just say you should start with only no annual fee credit cards? And yes, I did say that, but here's where things get interesting. Even though the Amex Blue Cash Preferred card has a $95 annual fee, it does come with an introductory $0 annual fee for the first year. So this means you can take advantage of the benefits of this otherwise mid-tier credit card for the first year, and depending on how you like it, either keep the card or downgrade it into the American Express Blue Cash Everyday card, which is a no annual fee option for the following year if you choose. This will not only get you started with a mid-tier credit card with an amazing grocery multiplier, but you can start to build your relationship with American Express, which is going to be very, very helpful and come in handy when you apply for more cards with them in the future. So now that we have our first 3 credit cards, let's figure out what our next step should be. At this point, we've maximized our cashback match with the Discover It card and have been building credit history with Chase Bank and American Express as well. But I'm sure you've noticed that we're missing one important bank that's become much more relevant in the credit card market recently, and that issuer, of course, is Capital One. And so the 4th card will be the Capital and Venture card, but hold on, I think there are 2 pathways you can consider going with here. Now, I know the Venture card doesn't get a lot of attention, but let me explain why I think this card will be a great 4th card. Capital One is an issuer that tends to have very random approvals, and I think the Venture card is great because Capital One offers a pre-approval tool, so you can see if you'd be pre-approved before actually submitting your application and getting hit with those 3 hard pulls. I think starting with Capital One is really important early on because they are more likely to approve those who are in the early stages of their credit card journey. Of course, this doesn't mean that if you're in the later stages of your journey, you couldn't get Capital One cards, but there are a lot of data points out there that show that people with seemingly good credit scores are getting flat out denied for Capital One cards. And the Venture card is a mid-tier card that can get you access to the Capital One travel portal, get you into their ecosystem, and 2 free lounge visits per year, among other benefits. And if you wanted even more benefits, you could product change this card into the Venture X without any hit to your credit report. Just be aware that if you product change up to the Venture X, you will miss out on the sign-up bonus for this card, which is 75,000 bonus points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months at this point in time. But if you try this card out for the year and realize travel benefits aren't for you, there's always a downgrade option to the Venture One credit card, which has no annual fee. Now, if you really feel the travel itch, it's certainly reasonable to instead go straight for the Capital and Venture X card, but just remember there's no pre-approval tool and there's no guarantee you'll be approved for this card. Also, don't forget that the Venture X is a $395 annual fee. But if that's cool with you, this would be my recommendation as a 4th card, especially if you want to get your first luxury travel credit card. Now, for your 5th and final card in this category, I think it's important that we reflect to what we've done so far. We've maximized the cashback match and have access to 5% rotating categories on the Discover It card. We have a catch-all card for our non-category expenses with the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. We have the grocery category covered at 6% cashback by the American Express Blue Cash Preferred card, and we've gotten started with luxury travel benefits with the Capital One Venture card or the Venture X card, depending on your preference. So with all that being said, the final card that I'd recommend would be the Chase Sapphire Preferred. As we all know, there's a rule called the Chase 524 rule that states that Chase will automatically deny you for any of their cards if you open 5 or more cards from any issuer in the past 24 months. And this rule has recently been called into question with many data points showing approvals over 524. But people are still getting denied for Chase cards due to this rule, so I would still proceed with caution and give this rule the proper respect that it deserves. for now. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is a great mid-tier credit card with only a $95 annual fee, but its true power lies in that it opens up access to the full suite of redemption options offered by the Chase Ultimate Rewards program, including their transfer partners. As Ultimate Rewards points are some of the most flexible to use, having this card is pretty important if you want to redeem your points for the highest value possible. And since the 524 rule is going to limit our access to Chase cards, I think getting the Chase Sapphire Preferred is super important early on, especially if you decide to apply for more credit cards, since if you do, you'll get locked out from applying for other Chase cards until you drop below the 524 limit. So those are my recommendations and strategies to consider when applying for your first 5 credit cards. Again, there's so much variability in different credit cards out there, I want to emphasize that there's no right or wrong answer. You have to look at your own financial situation, spending habits, and travel goals to determine how you want to play this and get the most out of your credit cards. But I know that sometimes it's nice to just consider a simple, valuable credit card setup, and so check out this video next where I go over the specific cards that make up this simple, no annual fee cashback setup.